And joining us right now is one of the true legends of comedy. He'll be performing up at the Ruth Eckerd Hall on February 2nd. They're up in Clearwater, and it's a great pleasure to welcome Don Rickles to the program today. And Don, how are you?
Pretty good, Doug. Thank you.
It's good to talk to you, and I know this time of year you kind of make your Florida swing. I know last year you came to Sarasota. That's where our station is, but our listening audience does also include Clearwater. But I guess you like the old Florida swing in the winter, right?
Oh, yeah. It's always nice to go back.
Didn't you start in Miami?
Yeah, I started at a little place, some 100,000 years ago, a little place called Murray Franklin's on 23rd and Collins, which no longer exists.
Right, I know you talk about it on interviews about it, and I guess that's what Miami was kind of like the Las Vegas of the South, wasn't it, back then?
Well, at that time, well, now it's South Beach, but at that time, you know, the Fontainebleau area and the Doral and all the hotels up there, you know, were pretty active.
They really were. It has changed, like you said. I know. And then on the 4th, you're heading over to Fort Lauderdale, the Frank Sinatra Theater. Is that the old Jackie Gleason Theater, or is that a different place?
No, it used to be the Sunrise.
Okay, I know where that is.
Yeah, I worked there years ago when it was called the Sunrise when it first opened.
That's great, yeah. And I know last year you were down here in Sarasota, and the people always love you down here. Hope you'll make it down here next year, but some of the fans can drive up to Clearwater. And just a couple of things, if we have a chance to talk to you. I know you've been doing the Dean Martin roast videos on TV recently. That must have been a lot of fun for you to kind of reminisce about that.
It brings back a lot of memories, you know. Those were fun days, those roasts. So they asked me to host a few of them, and I enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, I got those a few years ago on the VCR. I think it's available on DVD now, and those were a lot of fun. I grew up watching those, and you don't see that kind of comedy on TV as much anymore. It's kind of a shame.
Well, no, you know, that was unique with Dean, and all. Unfortunately, a lot of the people are gone now that were on those roasts, but it was an exceptional amount of talent that used to go on those. And Greg Garrison, he's gone too, rest his soul. He made it really come alive.
Really did, yeah. Those were, like you said, huge stars on that show, and of course you were kind of the wrap-up guy on those, and everybody kind of looked forward to when you would come on, and it was a lot of fun to watch you do that. And just kind of reminiscing again too, growing up in New York, must-see TV. We were talking about it on the show earlier in the week, Don, knowing you were going to be on, and whenever we knew that Don Rickles was going to be on Johnny Carson, you knew you had to watch that night. What great nights those were.
Well, they always told me it was an adventure, and I got to realize it was, because Johnny, who's gone, was great to work with. He always gave you space, and he always made you look good. There wasn't a time that I wasn't on that it didn't become an adventure, and with a great deal of fun. It
really was, and all that ad-lib, really. I mean, I guess you may have had a couple of ideas what you're going to do, but I think once you got out there, it seemed like just was kind of a free-for-all, and I think that's what made it so great. It was spontaneous.
It's amazing, Doug, you would say that, because it really was. I mean, he would we'd have notes, of course, what we're going to do and say, and never get to them. For example, I'd say, he'd ask me, how's your mother, which had nothing to do with anything we were going to talk about, and I would start him by saying, well, why do you care? You don't even know my mother, and you don't even like her, you know, all that kind of stuff.
And I think, too, whenever you go on Letterman, it's a little bit like that, too. I love when you go on with him.
Oh, it's amazing. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, Dave is pretty close to the Johnny style, and it's always great when I'm in New York to get an opportunity to be on Letterman. He has a lot of the Johnny Carson style in him.
He really does, yeah. You can tell he's obviously hugely influenced by Johnny, but it's great to whenever you're on there. And I know I was watching TV a couple of weeks ago. I think the Turner Classic Movies had one of my favorite movies that you were in, Kelly's Heroes.
You know, Doug, it's amazing. That was done almost 40 years ago, and it became a cult film, and it seems and a lot of the people at gone that were in that show, but it was great. It was a great time, and nobody ever realized that it would be last the way it has, and people still enjoy it.
And I think a lot of people may not be aware, but you actually studied at the Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York to be
I did.
an actor.
when I graduated, people were in shock, and they grabbed their diplomas and fell on the floor, not believing I joined them.
No, I mean you've done some great dramatic work. I know Run Silent, Run Deep. That's been on recently on TCM.
Oh, has it really?
Yeah.
That was the first. That was the first film, to my recollection, that I ever did with Clark Gable and Burt Lancaster.
I believe it was one of the Essentials. They have they have a series called The Essential Films, and that was one of them not too long ago. So that was a great movie that you did as well. And I know you still do movies. You did a Toy Story recently, didn't you? Then you did some on HBO, right?
Yeah, I did a Toy Story 2, and now they're talking about pre-production on Toy Story 3, which I look forward to doing Mr. Potato Head again.
That's right, Mr. Potato Head.
Should be fun.
Those are great, yeah. And that's easier work. I guess you just kind of do it as an old radio show, right? The voiceover, and then they animate it to you later on, right?
Yeah, well, that's what you do. Everybody, you sit in a booth and they tell you what's going on, and once in a while they have it on the screen, but most times when we did Toy Story, the director usually told you over earphones what was happening, and then you would react to whatever was going on.
Talking with Don Rickles, and we just got about a minute or so left, but I want to ask you one quick question.
Sure.
I saw your old friend Bob Newhart on with David Steinberg last week on the Sit Down Comedy Show. First of all, I hope you're going to be on that show, and have you been traveling with Bob lately?
No, with all our responsibilities now, Bob has grandchildren, and I have grandchildren, and we've been pretty much tied down here in the States, but we look forward to having one big trip left in us, or maybe hopefully more, but as of the moment, we haven't traveled. We see each other quite a bit, but nothing like it was in the old days.
Yeah, I love when, especially after Johnny passed away last year, you and Bob went on with Jay Leno. That was a great night of
thank
memories.
you. Yeah, I was very proud to be part of that.
Yeah, it really was. It was it's sad, obviously, that he passed away, but just the humor that you added that night, it kind of made it a lot easier for everybody, I think. Well, Don, you'll be performing February 2nd up at Ruth Eckerd in Clearwater, and then on the 4th in Fort Lauderdale. And if you want to check out Don's website, aptly named thehockeypuck.com. It's a great website, Don.
Well, thanks so much, Doug, for being so aware of your career. I appreciate it.
Well, I was a big fan of yours growing up in New York. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and hopefully we'll do it again when you come to Sarasota next year.
Well, please do.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you a million, and good luck.